Hello and welcome everyone to another StarCraft 2 England cast. I am on my mass castathon of the ASUS Republic of Gamers Winter 2012 assembly, and I am now on the semi-finals. I've been following Stephano from the round of 16 all the way through to up till now. The first game of the semi-finals he plays against EGPuMa, so let's get into game. We have Evil Genius's Puma down here in the bottom position, and meanwhile we have Stephano up in the north position. Stephano will be playing as the blue Zerg, and Puma will be playing as the red Terran. And I apologise for that little pop up there. You didn't actually see it, but it made an annoying ping sound. Now, the map is going to be Cloud Kingdom, and it is actually the ESV version of the map. So basically there's supply depots preventing any wall-offs, not that it's likely in a TVZ. And basically key features of the map are you've got a good kind of choke here, you can defend pretty easily, the Terran player can defend pretty easily. I mean, the Zerg don't tend to wall off, it's a bit more difficult to do. And the third base is relatively easy to take, and there's two actual access points to it. There's a good access point here, and then there's also the second ramp and the long way around, so it can lead to some interesting multi-pronged attacks, and really does mean that Stephano's got to be really spot on in his defense, and likewise Puma has to be concerned about zergling run-bys from all different directions. So it does actually make a third base really hard to hold for the Terran player, because they can't just siege up here, for example, and defend their second base and then move over and siege up here and defend their third, because it would then leave their other base vulnerable. So it'll be interesting to see how EGPuMa deals with this. But so far we've got a pretty standard build. We have got a little worker on worker fighting going on, and I think the SCV is going to come out on top. Stephano does pull that drone away with, I think it was about 2 health before it started regenerating, so bit dangerous. Drones do like to live on the edge, and again takes another hit from that SCV. This drone is a glutton for punishment, just wants to go for whatever he can do at the moment, and just running back and forth trying to survive that SCV. Is like, no, you're gonna die, I'm gonna drill you, mate. And that was a kind of dodgy back alley conversation you may hear in London of, I'm gonna drill you, mate. Or alternatively Brighton, and anyone outside of England won't get that joke unless they know a lot about the country and the cultures of our various cities. But anyway, so we have got that worker going to survive. Stephano is going down with the hatch first build, which is very, very standard. It was about a 15 hatch into probably a 16 pool, which is the go-to build, purely because it means that when you do go for the hatch at 15 and pool at 16, when the hatch finishes you get both queens. And now apparently there's a pause or something going on there, so who knows what happened there. And we are actually going to see a Reaper come out, I think. Yep, there we go, a Reaper starting now for Puma. So amazingly not a Reactor Hellion opening, which makes a pleasant surprise. I mean, you see Reactor Hellion pretty much every TVZ game at the moment, so seeing that Reaper come out, it's just a nice little change. And to be honest, this is a good map to use a Reaper, because you can just bounce up and down here, harass the main, harass the natural, and also escape pretty easily. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on here. Stephano does just have that one gas down. He did go pool then gas, so a bit late. And the Reaper is now out, and he's just switching that off, the barracks off the tech lab. So I'd imagine he's going to build a factory on the tech lab. Yep, there we go. It's like I can read his mind. But there we go. This command center is going down, so it's going to be a base up there pretty quickly, and a lot of zerglings here in preparation for the Reaper. The Overlord did scout it, so Stephano is aware that it is coming. And obviously if he goes for the main base, there's going to be quite a few zerglings to meet him, but he's not. He's just going to come down and poke here, see the queen, and think, oh god, quickly going to jump up the cliff and meet a whole load of zerglings. So Stephano did really nullify that Reaper, and that's probably why most Terran players decide to go for Reactor Hellions now. But if we take a quick look back, we are getting a reactor down on the barracks, and the factory is being built on the tech lab, so it's plausible that Puma could switch those two and go for Reactor Hellion at this point anyway. It looks like he is actually going to do that, so that was quite an interesting build. He's going to go Reactor Hellion out of this and just get up either Stim or something out of that tech lab, or he could even actually go for Marauders, and Marauder Hellion is a very, very strong play, but generally you tend to do that off one base. At least if it's going to be all-inish. It might not be all-inish. I was just assuming, which I shouldn't. Meanwhile, that orbital command is coming down, and actually a third command center now for Puma. So Puma's going for a super risky macro heavy build. Meanwhile, Stephano has got 44 supply. He is supply blocked for the next few seconds, which he doesn't really have any reason to, I don't believe. I don't think he's lost any overlords. So Stephano just running under the flying shark. And it'll be interesting to see what goes on from here. I mean, we do have those Hellions coming around, so all the Lings are out of position. But I mean, Puma's going to have an awful time trying to defend this. I mean, there's just so much stuff. Is he awake with the supply depots? He is, so the supply depots will manage to go up. But all of these mules and SCVs at the natural are going to go down. It will force the lift of the natural. But there are some Hellions there now, so those Zerglings aren't going to be able to do anything. The two Hellions which were going to attack have been forced back, but speed is now done, so those Hellions are going to get surrounded and most probably will die, although Stephano overshooting a little bit. And for some reason, this replay is being a bit laggy. I apologise if that is causing a problem. Hopefully it's just temporary. Now, if we take a look at Stephano's base, he's got his evolution chamber up, and he's going for his tried and tested ZvT of mass upgraded speedlings, which work. They are just scarily efficient. But Puma just getting a lot of Hellions out in kind of preparation for that. I mean, speedlings in mass, if they get us around on Hellions, do incredibly well, especially the upgrades. And now some Hellions are going to sleep through, only one though, but it will get that full scout off. Going to try and pick off some drones, may be able to get a drone or two. It depends how quickly Stephano gets there. It does get one drone, so kind of worthwhile, sort of ish, maybe. But the point is, he got scouting information. That's what he really needed. He would have just seen that second evolution chamber. I mean, just switching quickly to Puma. No, he didn't actually see that second evolution chamber. So he doesn't know it's going to be completely mass upgraded speedlings, but he can probably guess. Now, he's getting his second and third gas, meanwhile taking a bunker as well. Stephano taking his third base, and I mean, this third command center for Puma is just being used for the SCVs and the mules. He doesn't actually want to go and take this third base just yet because it'd be too hard to defend. Meanwhile, Stephano is still just getting the carapace upgrade. Hasn't actually started on the +1 melee attack yet. He's getting the lair first, it seems, and now going for the +1 melee attack. So his attention was clearly elsewhere, and getting a lot of spine crawlers now. And I think this is almost a slight overreaction by Stephano. I mean, there are quite a few Hellions out, but not enough to be requiring that many spine crawlers. But moving some around now, and I think that's a better move. He's moving one down here now to his third base, and one at the ramp here, and it'll be interesting to see what he actually does with that third one. But choosing to take out those rocks, and he's moving that third spine crawler over to the third base, so it's just giving good defense. So it wasn't all for the second base. Those Hellions are going to stop the creep spread going any further, and that's really key. Kind of the point of Hellions, much more so than doing damage. It's about preventing creep spread and preventing the Zerg gaining map control, because obviously Zerg being a reactive race means that, or all races are reactive, but Zerg needs good scouting information to make the right things, to not just die. Whereas Stephano is now getting a great surround on those Hellions, so we'll gain back that map control. Quite a few Hellions going down, getting good surrounds on those Zerglings, and Puma has actually invested in the blue flame upgrade, which is about 3/4 done. So losing all these Hellions is actually quite a big loss at this stage, because he will have to rebuild more, and all of the Hellions are going to go down. Now the Zerglings are lining up, but if Puma stops even for a second with that Hellion, it will go down. It will go down anyway. So I mean, that was quite a big loss for Puma there. Is having to rebuild all of those Hellions. He has got only one factory which is being used on the tech lab, so can't even get double upgrades going. He's getting 3 more barracks, and I mean, it'll be interesting to see what he's done. He's got that blue flame in order to deal with this mass Hellion style stuff, mass Ling style Hellion goes. Oh, I can't even speak. The mass Ling style Stephano goes for. So it'll be really interesting to see what he decides to do. I mean, the blue flame is done, so I assume he'll get some more Hellions out, because obviously blue flame Hellions do incredibly well against Zerglings. Meanwhile, Stephano is just going into total macro mode. He's got his macro hatch up, he's got his infestation pit up. So Ling infests are obviously absolutely brilliant, even against Hellions, because the fungal growths just stop them moving, and the Lings can get the really easy surround. But Puma now just Getting frustrated by the Zergling here for a start, because it means he can't take that third base when he wants to. He has moved it, so he is obviously looking to try and expand a third time. Meanwhile, Stephano just getting out a lot of infestors, getting a Roach one as well. Now, that Roach one will just protect him if Puma was going for mech, and that's really a good response. Meanwhile, Puma is actually getting 2-2, and I think the 2-2 is actually fractionally ahead of Stephano's, but 2-2 obviously very effective. Those Hellions now just going to go and take out that Zergling, and Puma will be able to take his third base. Now, if we take a look at Stephano's base, he's just scouting around, seeing what is going on. A great scan going off there for Puma, so he'll know exactly what's happening. He'll know that infestors are going to be on the field very, very soon. Siege mode only just about to finish up for Puma at the 13-minute mark. It'll probably finish about 13:30, and that is insanely late for Siege in a ZvT. Stephano taking his fourth base, and just really powering that creep spread, which he needs to do to join up the bases. His creep spread is actually really fantastic. He's got a great kind of show of all the creep, and a good scan going off there by Puma, just forcing that creep back a bit more. But a lot of Lings coming in now, and I mean, that's a great surround there. The Hellions are going to do huge damage, but a great little pickup by the Medivacs. But an Infestor is chasing it down, and if Fungal Growth goes off, Puma could lose a lot of stuff, but it won't be able to catch up quite. So Puma getting away by the skin of his teeth, and I mean, Puma actually as well going into complete macro mode now. But the Hive Tech is coming down for Stephano. A tank is already up, and these Lings are going to move around. There's quite a few Infestors here, chucking out some Infested Terrans, and this is a great little move. It just soaks up the first few Siege tank hits, and there's just so many Lings there. They do have +2 armor, but only +1 attack, but just cleaning it up. And I mean, there's so many Infested Terrans. All the Medivacs will go down. The Roaches are helping tremendously in picking off all of those SCVs and Mules. Some will manage to get away just, but I mean, this has forced the lift, and I mean, the Infested Terrans doing big damage. Stephano just going for it now. The Wall-off isn't going to get lifted up just yet. Stephano wisely pulling back, but I mean, delaying Puma's third base and forcing him to go back like that is just putting Stephano in a good economic position, and he's kept all of his Infestors alive, and that really is the most important thing, because getting Lings at this stage in the game is easy. He's got his fourth base up, he can quickly saturate that if he chooses to, and also Hive Tech on the way as well now, so we'll probably see 3-3 come out nearly instantly as soon as Hive Tech finishes. Meanwhile, Puma is very low on his Medivac count, his third base now going down, and I mean, if we go to the Lost tab, not too many workers killed, so that shouldn't matter too much. But taking a look at Stephano, Hive is now done, so I expect we will see the Adrenal Glands and 3-3 come out very, very shortly. This fourth base isn't actually being used by Stephano yet, and I think that's mainly just due to his creep spread not joining it up, and also kind of a lack of a need. And Stephano cleaning up that drop very, very nicely. The Infestor is there, can't actually Fungal Growth it quite yet, and here we go. Puma going in for a big, big counter push. Will he actually go and check for that fourth base? If he does, which it appears like he will, that fourth base will go down. That drone giving away that it is there, and I mean, that base is going to go down. Stephano is going to try and come and counter this up. The tanks are sieged though, but the upgrade advantage is in favour of the Lings, so the tanks will take quite a few hits to take it down. Re-sieging and unsieging the tanks to prevent splash, and the fourth base of Stephano does go down. A great scan goes off by Puma, and Stephano's had to completely sacrifice that base in order to not lose all of his army. Meanwhile, a Ling counterattack is going to come in, so Stephano's going to get a good counterattack off there. +3 melee attack and Adrenal Glands are on the way, and a huge Fungal Growth off on all of those Marines. A second Fungal Growth, again absolutely massive, doing huge damage to all of Puma's army, and I mean, this is why Infestors are so cost effective. Any unit that uses energy to deal damage is incredibly effective. And there we go, just in the entire army cleaned up by those few Infestors. But the fourth base is obviously down, and if we take a look here, I think that Ling run by was completely dealt with by Puma without much hassle. So, I mean, that was a fairly even trade. Puma lost the majority of his army that he was using to push out, but Stephano lost the base, so we'll wait and see what comes down. +3 Carapace also on the way now for Stephano. Adrenal Glands is pretty much finishing up. +3 melee attack will be done shortly too. Well, not that shortly, but it's about a quarter of the way done. Adrenal Glands will be done very shortly, and then we'll have 3-3 Cracklings, and Stephano taking his 5th base now, so 5 bases Stephano versus 3 bases Puma, but Puma's main base is looking very, very low. Not good. It's like going to an ATM and checking your bank balance and realizing you haven't been paid. You don't want to see that, because then you have no money to buy tanks and marines and marauders. Well, okay, maybe not in real life, but it'd be good if you could. But no, so PUMA is going to go for another drop here. He's just going to get that round. The drop will scout this 5th base, so we'll almost certainly force a cancel unless Stephano sends some units there in preparation. Meanwhile, though, this drop has gone off and forced a cancel at the 4th base of Stephano, and all of his army is now out of position. So when this drop does go off, PUMA has spotted it, and I mean that base is going to be cancelled as well. So PUMA is just pinning Stephano on these 3 bases, which is absolutely great play. It will stop him going any further kind of onto the tech path, and means that he is on equal bases with PUMA, and obviously that is the position PUMA wants to be in. Equal bases means he is still in this for the long haul, and there we go, that cancel has been forced, and PUMA just picking up those units and going to go and try and drop, but fungal growth will almost certainly go off, and there we go, absolutely perfect fungal growth by Stephano there, getting those 2 infested Terrans down, and that drop is going to be cleaned up. But a sensor tower now down as well for PUMA. Meanwhile, the Ultralisk Cavern has just finished for Stephano. 3-3 is about nearly done. Adrenal glands are done. So, I mean, Ultralisks, the big problem with Ultralisks is they're quite slow and difficult to get in position. But these infestors completely nullify that by using fungal growth, allowing the infestors to get a good surround. And a big drop in positioning here by EGPuMa. He's got the tanks, he's got this mid-ground, but obviously by moving all of his units out, he's only got this small ball to defend with. So Stephano actually looks like he could be preparing to either engage or counter push, and really it's up to Stephano right now what he chooses to do. He's getting a single Ultralisk now on the way. I mean, a lot of infestors, but the marine spread's pretty good, and that a fungal growth to take out 2 marines isn't exactly the most useful way to use infestors, but still better than nothing. And the armor upgrade for Ultralisks also on the way now, so this is going to be a very, very strong Ultralisk army with a lot of lings doing a lot of damage. But these tanks are positioned up now in a good place, and Stephano and PUMA both nearly reaching max. But PUMA has got his 4th base building now, and so is Stephano. But obviously it's going to keep them on equal bases, which is exactly where Stephano doesn't want to be, and where PUMA wants to keep Stephano. So this movement of army, just slowly moving those tanks around, trying to get the best possible position. And there's a lot of clumped up marines there, and some great scan there means that a lot of infestors do go down, and that was a big win there for PUMA. And it'll be interesting to see how Stephano deals with this. I mean, Stephano has an awful lot of money, but not actually spending it all at once. Getting some more infestors out. That drone transfer is going to go off. And wisely, he's had this base killed a few times by drop, so just keeping a couple of lings there. But that won't be too good if this entire army moves. And PUMA just constantly repositioning his army, constantly trying to get in the right place. And +3 infantry armor on the way now for PUMA. He has already got +3 infantry weapons, and also +2 vehicle weapons on the way now, I believe. Yep, +2 vehicle weapons are coming down for PUMA. So this is pretty close, but this is a big push coming in now on the 4th base. Stephano going to have to come and try and cover this, because if he loses this 4th base, Stephano is going to be in a terrible position to move forward. And I mean, that scan again, absolutely perfect, knows exactly what Stephano's got. Stephano is maxed out now, and here we go. Stephano is looking like he's going to try and push in. Those infested Terrans are going to be quite useful for soaking up a lot of the siege tank damage, but Stephano just going to go for it, and those siege tanks are going to get caught. Fungal growths will make the difference in this battle. If you get some good fungal growths off, as he does, all of the medevacs pretty much caught in fungal growth. They're doing absolutely huge damage, and the Ultralisks are just om-nom-nomming their way through. And PUMA's army is just getting demolished here. And Stephano's still somehow managing to keep quite a lot of infestors still alive, and his Ultralisks. And I mean, that was a big loss for PUMA there. He didn't manage to get the 4th base and lost all of his army. Now obviously Stephano now can remax. As you can see, 72 Zerglings are on their way. And I mean, that is a lot of Zerglings. Stephano just spending all of that bank he has now built, and some Marauder play, brilliant there. Going to take out all of those infestors. That is a big loss for Stephano. It was a good little move there by PUMA. Only 1 Marauder, but does so much, forcing the lift on this 4th base. And I mean, this is just good positioning by PUMA, pulling those units back in order to keep the maximum defensive position. I mean, Stephano's just got nothing that can attack air as it stands, so he can't do anything if PUMA does lift. But I mean, there's just so many Zerglings here. All of those SCVs are pretty much going to go down, and I can't see a thing here. There's just too many units to hide the health bars temporarily. And as you can see, it's, well, I think this is going in favour of Stephano, but that Ultralisk's just doing so much damage, getting surrounded by SCVs, but obviously does finally go down. And I think this came out in favour of Puma, but Puma's lost so many workers here. It was actually 36 workers are now killed by Stephano, so not a good position for Puma, but obviously he's only got this one mining base. He's mined out at his main, including one of the gases, only got 2 patches left at his natural, and meanwhile Stephano is still mining quite happily off his, well, half of his second base, all of his third and his fourth base now up and running completely, and a 5th base up and running. So Stephano has really got 3 and a bit mining bases to the 1 and a bit of Puma. So obviously Stephano in a very good economic position, getting up close to kind of 200, Puma only just hitting 100. So I mean, Stephano is going to very, very quickly be able to max up now. His big block is minerals, but obviously with these bonus bases he can do a lot. A drop is going down here, but Stephano is just on it, and I mean the infestors are getting taken down, and that every infestor he loses is a big loss, but it doesn't matter too much because Stephano's actually got a stupid amount of gas. It's his minerals which he's got a slight problem with, but obviously mining off of 3 bases means he can keep that up, and just moving these units here because I think he must have seen this medevac, or at least be expecting that medevac there. So the Lings are going to be in time, getting a great surround on the Marines, and the Marines will go down exceptionally quickly, but I mean they are just staying up just purely because of the medevac, so it will get cleaned up. But Stephano did take some losses, and Stephano now going for a double spire just at his natural base. So we're going to see a transition into Broodlords, and Broodlord Infestor Ultra armies are very, very good. Simple as that, they are very good. So I mean, what will happen now is Stephano will probably go for double upgrades on his Broodlords. Obviously, the melee attack and armor upgrades do benefit the Broodlings, the Broodlords shoot. And Puma only just now taking his 4th base, so he's moving actually this base over as well. So might try and take his 5th, but Stephano just moving in, forcing this out, and he's just lobbing a couple of infested Terrans, just enough to kind of harass. And it would have been interesting to see if Stephano just went for a complete mass volley of infested Terrans to take this base out, but it wouldn't have really mattered because there was this other base here. Meanwhile, Puma just coming in with all of his army to deal with 3 little infested Terrans. Now, this has actually shown Stephano a good idea of what Puma has left, and I mean, Puma is really struggling on the income tab, whereas Stephano has got Broodlords on the way, 8 Corruptors on the way, so he's about to have 8 Broodlords into his army once that Greater Spire finishes, and I mean it'll be interesting to see what he does. Sorry, I just had to take a gasp of drink there. My throat is dying of the excitement of this game, and some good infested Terrans. There is a tank sieged up though, but obviously you're not going to be able to one-shot it. The infested Terrans are moving back. A scan off just to deal with that Ling which has burrowed there, and I mean that 4th base is still being delayed. Meanwhile, a drop going off in the top position here has cleaned up all of the remaining Lings. Stephano is going to have to put a lot of units in order to deal with this, and really it may actually end up going down before Stephano gets there, which would obviously be a big loss. Stephano very wisely burrowing all of those drones just not to lose any of those, and actually I don't think there's going to be enough firepower there, so that will get cleaned up without the base going down. I mean, one or two more Marines and that would have gone down, but unfortunately for Puma there wasn't. Now Puma moving forward, killing off some of these creep tumors, will now see the Corruptors, and obviously he now knows that Broodlords are going to be on the way. The Corruptors will also help dealing with the medevac count, and I mean medevacs are just dropping everywhere. A drop taking out that base very, very quickly. Still got this 4th base though, so also taking a 5th base here. Kind of, that's a more logical 5th base. I don't know why he didn't take it sooner, to be honest. I mean, there's one thing for spreading his army out, but Stephano could have taken this quite easily earlier on and defended it very, very easily. So again, only just taking now, but doesn't matter. Stephano is a 200 to the 139 supply of Puma, so effectively 61 food ahead. And I mean, Puma is on now just 2 mining bases compared to the one of Stephano. Stephano is actually getting his 2nd one up now as well though, so not too bad. Just following around that medevac with a single Marine in there. The Marine is going to die, the poor Marine. The medevac will now just sit there apparently and just do nothing, but we'll wait and see. again, I'm surprised. There is a burrowed Ling down here as well, and I mean the only base available to Puma really is this one at the moment, and that would just be so horrible to try and defend. But Broodlords are in there now, Infestors, Ultralisks. This is just such a death ball army for Stephano, and he's just got so many units. The Corruptors are going to try and pick up some Medivacs, an absolutely fantastic fungal growth, a second fungal growth there. The Ultralisks are going to completely mow through that, and an Ultralisk may actually go down, but it doesn't really matter because there are a lot of Broodlords there. If we go to the unit counting tab, there are 11 Broodlords, 5 Ultralisks, and 11 Infestors as well. So Infestor, Broodlord, Ultra, with some Lings just thrown in for good measure. I mean, this is the sort of army that I don't think Puma can hold this. If Stephano just went head on even, I think he could take it, because he is, well, 60 food ahead. And he could just literally go for this, and just one good fungal growth. And I mean, Puma's got to be so careful. All he needs is one fungal growth to land on that bio ball, and he will just flat out lose it all, because the Ultralisks will be able to get in range, the Broodlords will get in range as well. Now, Stephano just taking a hatchery next to Puma's base, because he can. And a drop going off here, going to take out quite a few drones, and I mean, Puma's just trying to do some kind of expansion management, because that is what the end game is all about. Puma, meanwhile, just trying to take his base down in the very bottom right. Some Corruptors are trying to poke in, and one fungal growth goes off, and there's the big fungal growth that Puma did not want to have. And Stephano is going to take out that entire army in just a couple of hits. The Broodlords completely wrecking everything. Corruptors taking out the Medivacs and the Vikings, and Puma is now over 100 food behind. He has no money in the bank. Stephano has the one expansion up, getting the second one up. Got this base down here up. Meanwhile, Puma has managed to kill the base next to his base, which is always good. The downside is, of course, though, that he hasn't actually managed to take this base because of this burrowed Zergling. One burrowed Zergling will reduce the efficiency. Now, Puma does have a lot of gas remaining, but has very, very little minerals to any. But likewise, Stephano has hardly any minerals, because he's just getting so much stuff. Now, Puma just can't hold this. This is a valiant effort by Puma, but there's just nothing he can do. There's just too many Broodlords, too many units, and Puma will GG any second. There we go. So that was an amazingly long game. It wasn't that long, actually, only 33 minutes 50. But both players did incredible expansion management throughout the entire game, both denying their enemies expanding and also expanding themselves. And Puma gave up a good fight and really stuck it out to the very, very end. But obviously, Broodlord Infestor Ultra is pretty much unstoppable, unless you've got a similar Death Ball army. So that was game one. Stephano takes the first game of this best of 3. I am going to cast the second game now, so be prepared to tune into that. I hope you enjoyed.